Before we get to invisible walls, there are some basic fundamentals of Super Mario 64 that we need to go over first. So, all geometry in the game is made up of surface triangles, which you can see here. Now, there are three different types of surface triangles. First, there are floors. Floors are the triangles that you can stand on, and in visuals we color them blue. Second, there are walls. Walls are the triangles that you can push, punch, kick, and wall jump off of. We color them green. And third, there are ceilings. Ceilings are the triangles that if you jump up into them, they'll cut short your upwards trajectory. And some ceilings even let you hang on them and swing around. We color ceilings red. Now, one important property of a triangle is its normal vector. Think of a triangle's normal vector as an arrow that juts out perpendicularly from the triangle. Interestingly, it's the direction of a triangle's normal vector that determines whether the triangle is a floor, wall, or ceiling. If the normal vector is pointing upwards at all, then the triangle is a floor. See, even these triangles count as floors because their normal vectors point just a tiny bit upwards. On the other hand, if the normal vector is pointing downwards at all, then the triangle is a ceiling. So even these ones are ceilings because their normal vectors point just a tiny bit downwards. And finally, if the normal vector is pointing exactly sideways or extremely close to exactly sideways, then the triangle is a wall. So now you know the three kinds of triangles: floors, walls, and ceilings, whose normal vectors point upwards, sideways, and downwards respectively. Note that here I'm showing the triangles from the side, so they just look like lines from this angle. Now we're going to talk about the triangle hitboxes, aka how these triangles affect Mario and the area around them. So let's start with floors. A floor's hitbox extends 78 units below the floor, and its effect is that it snaps Mario up onto the floor. So we can see that as Mario enters the hitbox, he gets snapped up. But now let's make this visual more precise. You see, Mario's position is the point at the bottom center of his model, which I'll represent with this symbol. So when I talk about Mario entering a hitbox, it's purely about whether the point at the bottom center of his model enters the hitbox, not just any point on his model entering the hitbox. Also, Mario doesn't move around continuously, but in discrete chunks, which I'll represent with yellow arrows. So let's watch it again. Mario moves to the right one arrow at a time, and now he's about to enter the floor hitbox. So on the next step, Mario enters the floor hitbox and then gets snapped up onto the floor. In other words, those two arrows happen on the same step, so we never actually see Mario below the floor. Here's what a floor snap looks like in the game. Mario walks towards the wooden post and then snaps up onto it. If we have multiple floors in a row, then Mario would snap up on each one of them, so his height increases each time he reaches a new step. That's how climbing stairs works in the game. And if the floor is at an angle, then Mario would snap up each time he moves. So in this case, his height increases continuously. And that's how ramps work in the game. Though, note that floors will also snap Mario downwards to some extent, so that walking downhill works too. Now let's talk about walls. A wall's hitbox extends out 50 units on both sides, and it's offset to be a little lower down than the wall triangle itself. Its effect is that it pushes Mario sideways in the direction of the triangle's normal vector, which in this case is to the left. So we can see that as Mario enters this hitbox, he gets displaced sideways, putting him exactly flush with the wall's hitbox and also putting him into the pushing animation. Just like before, the arrow for Mario going into the hitbox and the arrow for Mario being pushed out of the hitbox happen on the same step, so we don't actually see Mario inside of the wall hitbox. And so now, if Mario just keeps walking into the wall hitbox, then he ends up pushing against the wall